Hola Community, welcome to Blender Today Live. If you're new here, we get together every other week to see what's new in Blender. Not the kitchen appliance, your favorite 3D software, which is about to, actually today was supposed to start the 5th generation. Blender 5.0 beta was supposed to happen today. It's not gonna happen today. Next week. It was delayed 1 week because just there's way too many things, as we'll see in this episode, that need extra care. And 1 more week. Also, we didn't have a splash screen until the very last minute, and now we do. And I'm really happy that we waited this 1 extra week because we managed to get someone's time to make it even better. This someone was at the Blender conference actually, so you may have run into them. I'm not gonna give away any clues yet. But yeah, Blender conference. Last time we talked 2 weeks ago, that was right before the Blender conference. So today, let's go a bit over what's the conference. It's over. There is a recap on the conference website as well. I just want to highlight that the Susan Awards, the animation festival in the conference, now has all the awards or the nominees and everyone announced has been added to the website. We used to have it like long time in the past, not anymore. Not for a few years. I don't remember exactly why, but now they are. Now you can actually see who won. You can watch the shorts, the nominees, and all that good stuff. Then recap. Yesterday, a new video was published on this channel, on the YouTube channel, Blender YouTube channel, about the recap of the Blender conference. A very nice 1-minute video, super short, on what happened. This is not like the other recaps, a longer one with interviews and all. This year was mostly focused on having some glimpse of it. The recap is super nice. You should check it out. Other than that, the feedback, if you were here at the conference, the weekend after, you may have gotten an email asking, hey, what's your feedback? And the results are in. The overall response has been very positive, actually even better than last year in some cases. Like the content, especially the talks, last year they were like between good and very good. They were about the same level, but now there is more of a difference between the very good and the good. So that's a good thing. There are some remarks here by Francesco as well, and some of his favorites. This should link to the talk. I'm gonna make them link to the talk, but yeah, that's it. The recap about the conference. Speaking of Francesco, you may have gotten the news, by the way. That one of the keynote announced that Ton is stepping aside of the CEO place here at the conference at the Blender Foundation, and is replaced by Francesco and a new Blender Foundation board for the just to get more people involved and not just the one person as it is now. Some people freaked out, some people were emotional. I was on the emotional side. Don't freak out. This has been under the curtains, like behind the scenes. This has been the case since the beginning of the year, and also previously as well. Francesco has been involved in so many decisions already in the last few years, and you may know why if you are keeping up to date with the news around Blender, especially since COVID. So it's nothing new to expect. There's just like things have been working out so well. So if you liked what happened so far in 2025, you will like what's coming in the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years of Blender. So we're good. No need to freak out. Then let's see what else. That's all there is, because even today I saw a video on YouTube about the 5 and the announcements, and I hope they keep it free forever. It's the same people that are working on Blender. It's not like it's handing it over to someone new. We're a small team. We've all been involved in this for I don't know how long. I've been working with Blender projects for 16 years. I'm not going anywhere. Francesco for also 10, 12, 13, 14 years. I don't know. Andy's around also for like 20 years. Dalai for another. Like if you sum up all the years that people have been involved in this project and they're not going away, you know that the project is in good hands. So I hope you believe this. let's move us. Let's see what else. Well, Blender Conference. That's it. That's all for Blender Conference. There are pictures too if you want to see the photos, portraits, impressions. We had the honor to have the Oscar from the from Flow from the studio in France, Sacre Bleu, that have been so nice in giving us the bringing it over for everybody in the community to take a picture with a real Oscar, the real thing. Anyone. Some people try to. This is amazing. Who does that? Who takes such a precious object as their own Oscar, and just bring it over to for anyone in the community to hang out, to see it and hold it, and it's so nice. Okay. Anything else? No, that's it. Let's see what else is new in Blender as of today, because today was supposed to be the beta, like I mentioned before. 1 week of delay. That doesn't mean that the release is postponed. Actually, if you go to projects.blender.org, you go to project.blender.org, you go to here to the sidebar 5.0. The release date is still the 11th of November. That hasn't changed yet. That will depend on how many bug reports are coming in. So please report bugs. Today I also saw another comment on YouTube, on a YouTube video, that says, oh, I tried Blender 5, but it was crashing a lot, so I had to switch back to Blender 4 or whatever. And no, don't do that, please. If you're willing to try an alpha version of Blender and you make it crash, please make it crash again. Write down how you made it crash, report it, because then that's how you make sure that the bug is not gonna, that when you download the Blender 5 stable, it's not crashing, because making Blender stable is an effort of all of us, not just developers, but users have to report, because maybe you have a specific configuration on your computer, or a specific use of a node, of a modifier, whatever. So please report. Making Blender stable is our responsibility of everyone. All right, let's see what is it. If you're new here, by the way, we go through, we go alphabetically in all the changes, that about 400 changes this week. It's been a lot, although usually it's 500, but because of the Blender conference, there were not many. Although the few that made it in are like, remember spoiler, but the compositor in the sequencer. I mean, you read the title of this video. That's insane. Let's go by parts. Let's go alphabetically. So welcome to what's new in Blender today. Starting with oh no, not that one. We already boot up the PlayStation. Now it's like time to switch to the topic. The Alembic, A for Alembic, the support for additional point cloud attribute types. Yay! So if you're using Alembic and point clouds, now it supports more attribute types. Here's the information. By the way, let me Blender.community. Let me make a thread so I can post or maybe someone else can make it for me. Let's see. I'm not even logged in. Let's see. Oh yeah, somebody made it already. Awesome, thank you. Can I edit it and then add the list so everyone gets to see it? Thank you so much, Daniel Lapalm. I just edited, and now I added all the changes. So you can read on Blender Community, you can already read all the changes. The ones with this highlight are the ones that I'm gonna read. So let's see. Alembic, point clouds, attributes. Then let's switch to A for animation. Two changes worth noting. One of them is that when you are importing actions from VVH or FBX files, the action slot will be named slot. So it has its own, so it has the same name as usual action. So when you switch between them, they are gonna be, it works better. You're gonna have the same slot being shown. Look at that, I could explain the feature without even waiting for GT to load. And now it can't even be reached. Awesome. This one was a big change, actually. Have you ever had issues when It is more like rigging than animation. When using custom bone shapes, so when using custom bone, well, let's see, custom shape transforms to affect the transform option. So this has a new option, which is called affect gizmo, which makes it so that when it is enabled, it will place the gizmo at the location and orientation of the override transform, so the local space of the bone. So basically you take the custom shape, press that, and it's gonna follow the position of the override transform bone, which is something that apparently it's been requested for a long time. There is this design document by Rick, character artist, animator, rigger, everything from here, from the studio. Director of Pets, the Winged Open Movie project. Let's see. What else? We're gonna have a BKA Blender kernel, right? Let's see. Oh, we have Siren here in the chat, so Siren can actually tell me. BKA is Blender kernel, right? So something that is very internal, like functions that are internal to Blender that affect many areas because they're part of Blender's kernel. So in this case, the update of the smooth curve preset, apparently it was wrong. Yeah, it wasn't like the smooth shape wasn't as it should be according to math. So it's good that this get updated because this affects everything, I guess, all the curve drawing, the brush settings, the I guess also the proportional editing shape, pretty much everything that uses a smooth curve. So good to see. Let's see what else. In B4 Blender Loader, so this is another part of Blender that takes care of loading blend files. This is a huge change, actually. This is all under the hood. It breaks compatibility with old, well, it's already broken in many areas, but it breaks compatibility with older Blender versions. So if you save your file with Blender 5, you're not gonna be able to open it with previous versions. Only with 4.5, and you can use Blender 4.5 LTS as a bridge to open it in older Blender versions. But you are not going to be able to open a Blender 5.0 file in Blender 4.4, for example, without going through 4.5 first. I already mentioned this a few times, worth mentioning it again. Sorry, I'm still recovering from the Blender conference sickness. Too many people. This change makes it so Blender, like the pointers, the bits of the blend files that point to specific parts of the blend file are more stable, basically. So that means that if you save a file, you open it again, it's gonna all the direction, the address of these items gonna stay. It's gonna be stable, which means, and it could lead to many changes in the way Blender handles memory, for example. So if you have a undo step, right? If you Control Z, Blender could now tell it's like, oh, these items didn't change. I know these pointers, I've been using them before, and actually this hasn't changed. So I'm gonna save some memory and only change what's needed. Or for the Blender asset tracer, that's used for Flamenco to trace dependencies between blend files. This also helps because it makes it so it knows exactly that this data block is the one that I'm looking for, and it can be more efficient, or actually not fail. Or also when using blend files in version control, it's like SVN or Git LFS or Mercurial or whatever other you use, the diffs can be smaller because the pointers aren't changing all the time and have a lower memory footprint, so use less memory. So overall, it's a big change. It's super nice that it made it in because it's one of those things really under the hood that makes Blender better for everyone. But it's not really sometimes appreciated. It's nobody's gonna think, oh, why my pointers are not correct. Let's see. Also for Flamenco, here Sibran says, also for Flamenco, this is going to be really important when we start building the new BAT. BAT is Blender Asset Tracer. It's to, what I mentioned before, is to keep the Well, actually, if you don't know what flamenco is, you can go to flamenco.blender.org and learn about it. It's a project by Blender that handles, or you can use to handle all your rendering needs. Basically, you tell it that you are rendering a scene. Actually, I can maybe show it. I mean, it's all open source here. So everything that I'm showing, okay, so you're looking at how flamenco looks now in production. I hope this is fine. And then you can actually see how it's completed. If there's nothing rendering at the moment, this is how completed it is. Metadata, jobs, computers, everything. This is how it looks. And it's so cool because you can keep track, you can set priorities, you can see which computer is using it, anyway. Let's see. It was used to render all the OpenEXR projects. Pretty much all of them, in one way or another. Let's switch to... Somebody mentioned, what is the purpose of it? Of flamenco? Well, if you have more than one... Well, if you want to handle your render jobs, if you have many computers, of course, that makes it more useful. If you have 2 computers even one computer, well, you want to control it, you want to send jobs to render and handle their priority, make sure that they, you can even add your own custom jobs. If, for example, if you have rendering in multiple chunks, or if you want to render a few samples and then re-render with more samples, or convert all of that into a video with FFmpeg, for example, it's very, very powerful. Okay, let's switch to C4 color management. So many changes in color management. I think this is one of the biggest topics in Blender 5. So there are small things, but very important, like this one by Damian, which adds descriptions and definitions to the tooltips. So Blender wasn't displaying the actual description of the of each one of the OpenColor IO, Okio, how do you call it? OpenColor IO display device settings, and they're now actually displayed. So you can read what is that you're using, and actually there's 3 of them. So you can see what it does. It's basically a tooltip. Better preserve views when switching between displays. Yeah, so when you're switching between displays, Blender will try to preserve the view that was there before. You can, oh, by the way, if you're using Blender 5 lately, in a few days, you may have noticed that there is a new toggle on each color picker above the RGB and HSV options. There is now linear and perceptual. This was it was added a few days ago, actually, as part of the whole process, where you can actually see at a glance the color that you're working on, or the color that it will be rendered on, for more precision. Then there's so many other changes. Not gonna go through because it wouldn't end. And also I understand half of them, because color space it's a science. Literally, it's a science of color space. But this one, for example, adds a new option called working space as a color space choice in the menu. So this, we can actually just look at it in Blender. Had this beautiful character here, and color management. So in the color management panel, under working space, you can choose the working space as an option. So you just use whatever is said before. This is the option. And let's see what else. If you like that character, is actually from the studio project for Project Storm Studio. Let's see. What other change? Support for HDR PNGs, read and write. Wow, Blender 5 is gonna support the new PNG 3. Have you heard about PNG 3? It's like the big thing, PNG 3 format. It's kind of huge milestone. It's a new version of a format. How often do you get a new version of? Well, maybe OpenEXR. You're more used to it. But yeah, why is PNG 3 and why is it making a comeback? It's awesome. It's a new PNG. And Blender supports it. Basically, it supports HDR among other things, but HDR is like the big thing. So it's great that Blender 5 will support it out of the box, thanks to this change by Brecht. If you're not into all this new ACES 2.0 stuff, you can always try or render and save in ACES 1.0 and 1.1 just to either match the old looks, how Blender used to look, or ACES 1.0 based pipelines, so for support or stylistic reasons. So yeah, it's cool to see that there is added support for old stuff, not just all the new. And there is an option, a new option, control the display emulation, which by default is set to automatic. It's under color management, advanced, and you can choose between auto or off. The off option is if you want to make sure, it's better to keep it automatic, but if you know exactly which display and which color space and if you know all the details, then you can set it to off and Blender will not bother setting it for you. Then there is, and finally, the HDR images saved with Blender are gonna save with a 203, very specific, 203 nits of brightness, which apparently, based on extensive testing, says Brecht, this gives matching HDR brightness across most applications with both PNG and AVIF. Video remains at 100 nits as that appears to be the convention there. Nice. All right, time to move to the Compositor. And actually what I'm gonna share is in the sequencer, not in the Compositor, although it's in both places. But let's start with the Compositor. The Glare node has a new option for a kernel convolution mode, which helps to make effects such as this. Super nice. And that's it. Convolution is a new option, kernel. So thank you, Mohammed, for working on this. I think it's part of the Google Summer of Code still get good from the Summer of Code. Then the nodes in themselves, there are many nodes were adjusted, so the order of the items is based on importance. Blender, what is the importance of a setting inside of a node, right? The inside under the hood, Blender already defines the importance based on the domain. So if you're working on an image, on a vector, on a float point, or in any kind of data type, and Blender already internally has this kind of order, so this is just making it more explicit. So it's cool. What you see in the node is how Blender gonna prioritize these changes. Then Omar has also been on a roll, many changes and also many quality of life improvements, like this one. Alpha over, and this is amazing. So how many times? Let's go to the Compositor, add a new Compositor, alpha over, alpha over. Look, wow. Okay, this looks a bit backward, but we just need to get used to it. This is the order of importance, but basically, background and foreground. Remember how this used to look? I happen to have Blender 4.5 here, my own 3D software. Remember when we used to say that? Oh, you have to press use nodes in 4.5. How old is that? Anyway, alpha over had two inputs, image and image. Which one goes first? You have to try. Well, actually, after a while you get used to it. It's just first image is the background and then the foreground. But it's a bit of backwards, right? Because you would expect this one that is on top to be on top. No, it's the other way around. Blender, Blender being Blender. But now actually it's going to tell you background and foreground. Super nice. This FAC, I'm not going to say that because YouTube's going to not like my video. FAC is going to change in a few days. Actually, it should change soon for Blender 5. It's going to have the full word factor. Yes, believe it or not, that small change is not so small because actually breaks compatibility with previous Blender versions and files and stuff. So, and if you make add-ons and you call the sockets by name, by label, then also it's going to break. But Blender 5 is breaking so many things already that might as well do it now. Cool. Let's see. What else? More quality of life. Well, by removing things. So in this change, the X and Y scale option from the displace node has been removed because that was basically a factor for the displacement already, and you can root already with the displacement. So yeah, makes it simpler. Then the bokeh blur size is now set in pixels. That's nice. This patch makes the size input of the bokeh blur defined in pixels as opposed to being relative to 0.01. Yeah, it was a bit arbitrary, but now it's in pixels. And then you have an option, you remember you have now the node called relative to pixel, so you can also make use of that. Then the use nodes option has been reintroduced but deprecated in the Python API, so doesn't break too many things. But I think for Blender 6 that will be removed. So and last but not least, the copy button in the Compositor, like the because yeah, the Compositor in 5.0 now has this option where you can choose other compositing nodes. Well, the duplicate node was actually making a new composite from scratch, as opposed to duplicate like every other part in Blender. Like if you press well, now I can't find one. Well, if you press this icon, you're duplicating, and now it's the same case in the Compositor nodes. Awesome. That was by Habib, so thank you, Habib. Let's move to core. In core, wow, this also is huge. This change has been worked on for a long time. How to explain it? Because this is one of those changes that you shouldn't even know about. You shouldn't even need to know about. But so basically, when one of the reasons why Blender didn't come with any presets or any node groups as presets, well, it did, but only for a few use cases, for the hair dynamic stuff, not dynamics, but hair grooming stuff, but not that much more, remember? And that was one complaint from the community. The thing is, if Blender would add more presets, more node group presets, that would mean that you would end up with a bunch of duplicates. For example, what if you want to add a new modifier that you use a lot, like mirror or array, for example? We're gonna see that in a bit. Like an array, a new array modifier made with geometry nodes would be great. However, that's something you use all the time. So if Blender would add that before this change, it would mean that you would end up in your file with a bunch of node groups called array 001, 2, 3. And that would be, yeah, very noisy, lots of data that you don't need around until this change. This makes it so Blender now automatically deduplicates or keeps knows that you're using these assets, this data block that is an asset. And if you don't change anything inside of the node group, then you can reuse it as many times as you want, like if you were linking something, but it's like internally linked. So Blender will only keep one copy and the file will be faster. You are not going to have a mess of node groups in the lists. It's just always better. How do you recognize that? Well, with the icon for packing. The pack icon, the little box icon that you would see in where to show it without spoiling the feature. So let's see. It looks like I'm browsing with dial-up, but that's just internet, the studio. Let's see. So pack, this icon is what you will see next to an asset that is built in, is packed. But at any time, you can make your own copy. We're going to see now with the new node assets that were added into Blender. So yeah, it's this icon. And just for the lols, how do you think? This is called package. And what do you think this is? Unpackaged? No, this is called ugly package. That's the name of the icon in Blender. Somebody called it ugly package and got away with it. Awesome. Let's see. Speaking of non-ugly, there is a new option There is a new, no, there's no new option actually. Sorry, I was looking at the chat. Ugly package. Yes, that's it. Local linked by Andres says a local link. Well, kind of, yeah, it's like locally linked, yes. But we use the word packed because in Blender you can already pack stuff. If you go to File, External Data, Pack Resources, Pack link Libraries, we already have this concept of packing stuff. Oh, actually here we could use the pack icon and the ugly package icon because it makes sense. Like when you make, for example, you are, for example, texture painting in the editor, you make a new image, you can pack this, not from here actually, that would make sense. Image, can I pack it from here? Yeah, pack, image pack. And then it should actually, it didn't, but it should show the icon. Because it's not coming from no, it should. Only for external data. So if I would open an image that I have on my hard drive, I can pack it and it will always come with this blend file. Let's see what else is new in C4 curves. There is one change which I don't understand a thing, just that it's better. And I also trust it because it's been it's by Matthias Fredriksson, which also has been contributing a lot of great patches lately. It has a lot of math in it, a lot of graphs and things I will never understand. But Hans, who is one of our core developers, and it's has actually, I think his studies specialize on curve stuff as well. So it's a nice change. And yeah, basically, I think it just makes better calculation, more stable, more robust, curve tangents everywhere in Blender. So pretty welcome. Next, let's talk about C4 cycles. A new pass is in town, a new render time pass. This implements a basic render time pass using hardware-based counters to minimize the render time impact. Interesting. Have you ever wondered how long a render took? Now you know. It's in the metadata of, you can add it to the metadata of a render. Nice. Production stuff. The output is in milliseconds of the CPU time per pixel. Okay, next. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Please, everyone stand up and give it up for this change, which makes adaptive subdivision a feature that has been in Blender for a decade or more. No, yeah, well, cycles is from 2011, so probably more than a decade. It's no longer experimental. Adaptive subdivision is no longer an experimental feature. It's natively supported on the subdivision surface modifier. I never thought I would see this day, but let me add all the emojis in the world. So yes, awesome. So basically remove the feature set option. Oh my gosh, this was the last experimental feature. Yeah, I actually didn't notice. And let's go to cycles. I don't have cycles installed. I know you can install cycles. Let me mute myself. There you go. I hope I muted myself so you didn't hear me cough. Cycles. And yeah, there is no more option for experimental. Oh my gosh, for feature set. The end of an era. There is a space choice between pixel and object, and the latter is new and can be used for object space dicing that works with instances. Oh my, it's super nice. Instead of a pixel size, an object space edge length is specified. And also adds object space subdivision set. Wow, that's awesome. Nice. Oh, I think this should be inside of a box. This kind of information, we have it in boxes. Wow, awesome. Insane. Wow. Blender 5 never ceases to amaze me, even 1 week behind schedule. Let's see what else is new. Well, you know, the improvements to volume rendering that were announced a few weeks ago. Now there is an option to bring back the old method, ray marching. So because in some cases the new one has performance and noise issues, so bring back the old one just in case you need it. Always good to have options. Damien Picard added some improvements to the open shading language camera, to the OSL camera. Now it adds support for translation inputs, normal inputs, file inputs, angle inputs, distance, time, and enum inputs. So you can have a crazy UI now on your cameras. Custom labels, distance with actual units, even angle vectors, normal file names, enum, same, and labels. That's so cool. So advanced OSL camera. Awesome. Thank you, Damian. And last but not least, Amok Shivaram implemented film iridescence for metals. Yeah, this feature that has been added to Blender, what was it? 4.5, 4.4? Not too old, actually. It's now, it now adds support for metal. The metallic BSDF and the... No, that was already in the principal BSDF. So metallic BSDF. Nice. So you can go and make... What is this? Bubbles and car paints and oil marks, and so cool. Awesome. So what else? Oh, even there are even options: stainless steel, nickel, and bronze. Neat. Awesome. All right, that's it for cycles. Let's see what else it's new in E4 EEVEE. In EEVEE, performance improvements, as we are used to seeing lately, and I'm really happy that developers, well, developer in this case, all these changes are by Clement. They are working on making it faster, especially compilation time, which was one of the complaints when moving from EEVEE Legacy to EEVEE Next, or EEVEE, as it's known now. The change is on NVIDIA graphics cards is a bit more prominent. It's 1.31 times faster, so 1.3 times faster, whereas on Mesa AMD drivers is 1.12, according to the tests. Not bad. It's good to see these changes. Then there are a few other smaller changes, but also improve at a few milliseconds of compilation, less milliseconds of compilation time per material shader. So if you add them up, you get some speed up. And another one with more milliseconds, like removed from the compilation time per shader. So if you have many shaders and as many bugs as there has been fixed, look at the list of bug fixes. How many of them were introduced in 5? We don't know, but it's good to see that they get fixed. In the CPU section, there is one mention also related to performance, but there are so many other changes, internal changes, that it's good to see that work is being put into making compilation time of shaders faster. Let's continue with G for geometry node. Let's see. Beriesa says, mate when? Here's mate. All the time, every day. Twice a day sometimes. Let's see what else. This change is... Oh, okay, there's a new node in town for geometry nodes, which is called tangent, UV tangent node. This node outputs the tangent values for face corners. There are two methods. One is the exact and fast. Exact is the same as the mixed space calculation used elsewhere in Blender, whereas the fast one is over 4 times faster and useful in many of the same situations, though not necessarily tangential to the surface. So when you just want a quick UV tangent, most of the time apparently you're gonna get away with the faster one, which is 4 times faster. So super nice. Thank you, Hans. I missed this one actually. I didn't know it was coming. Actually, it's from last month. Neat. Quality of life improvements all over the place. This one by Jack makes it so now you can actually view non-geometry data in the viewer node. What does it mean? Well, it's easier to see it here. So the viewer node now can actually preview values directly, the computed values directly in the viewer node. So you don't have to make them visible with the attribute text in the viewport, or you can just see it directly here. So nice. Speaking of the viewer node, now it supports grid inputs as well. Nice. Display the grid in the 3D viewport. Internally, it just creates a volume geometry, so this case doesn't spread into any rendering code. And add very basic data in the spreadsheet for the grid. It says float type for class and data type float and class fog volume. Nice. Density grids. Can now see grids in the viewer node. What else? Another one by Hans is a UI change that makes displaying the manage panel in your geometry node setups optional. So if you don't want to see the manage panel, and the show should be before and then manage panel should be after, it's you can also toggle it from the actual modifier itself. That's nice. So I guess that's in any, I'm gonna see it later when actually we look at the assets, the built-in assets. Let's see. Then actually that is the next change by Simon Thomas. So this is one change that many in the community have been waiting for. So welcome to the new essential assets in Blender 5.0. There are 3 new modifiers in Blender, and this is the very first time that actually Blender gets new modifiers, and in a long time. So let's see. Let's start a new layout, make a new scene. So let's see. Add a new object, then go to the modifiers, and you will now find that in generate there is a new array legacy option and an array. And there is two others that don't have icons yet. So if you want to help with the icons, and help is welcome, because it would be nice to ship icons actually for this, because otherwise it looks like a gap in them. And they shouldn't look different than other modifiers, but they are different because they are geometry nodes based. So if you add the legacy one, you will see the one that you know and love. Maybe not love is a word, but you can now try the one with the icon. And the icon one, it looks just like a regular modifier, but look at the difference. So if I disable this and I add the legacy one, can you tell the difference already in the viewport? This is the legacy one, and this is the new one. You can tell that it has widgets now. It has options. Look at that. The UI looks also slightly different, but this alone makes it new. It's the first modifier that actually has gizmos. Well, because it's built with geometry nodes. And also, it has one request from the community since the day one, which is a circle shape for array. So basically, a radial array, which is something that the community has been waiting forever. It's here, and it's geometry nodes based. It has gizmos, it has options, it has access, it has randomization. You can randomize the position, the offset of each one, the rotation of each one even. And what's also great is that what you don't get with the other one is that here you can't assign attributes very easily. Whereas in geometry nodes, you can just basically, if I don't want to control it with an offset XYZ, I can just switch to attribute and just write the name of my vector attribute that I want to use here, right? Oh, that would be nice to expose the icon of the available data type here, or actually it can be anything. I don't know. Anyways, that's amazing. Pretty amazing. Because this is one of those things that people have been asking for so long, and now it's here. So I wonder how performance is. I think they probably thought about it. Oh, this one shows the manage one. I don't want the manage one. So maybe we can actually disable manage from here. Show manage panel. Bam, gone. That would actually make it better. I think we should do this for all the built-in assets as well. Yeah, but actually if you press show node group, you can actually see that it's a node group. It's a geometry nodes node group. It has the packed icon, not the ugly one, the pretty one. And this tells you that it's a built-in asset. So if I add another one if I duplicate this with Control, which is duplicate Shift D, Command D, then you will see that it has 2 users. Nice. Well, usually you wouldn't see it because it's hidden, but internally Blender is gonna just reuse the same guy and the same multiple times. This is awesome. And if you want to see how this is done, this is the best part because it's geometry nodes. You can actually tweak your own, say like, yeah, you know, this is great, but I know better and I'm gonna make my own. I don't like this option, or I don't like the label, I don't like anything. You just come here and make your own. You can make a copy of it and then my better array, and then you make it and then you just tweak it to your liking. Isn't that great? Imagine that, oh, this also uses another one, real randomized transform. It's a built-in packed assets. Neat. Wow. So this is kind of amazing, isn't it? Finally, you can edit your own modifiers. So what else? Which one else would you like to see actually from from the built-in ones to be transformed? There is 2 other geometry nodes. One is curve to cube, but you need a curve for that, and the other one is scatter on surface. So you don't need to do all the this basically anymore yourself. And scattering on the surface is one of the first examples for geometry nodes that was introduced. So it's not that hard to do. You have to instance on points and do the point stuff. But there's, if you want to add instancing every time, you need to make it from scratch. Not anymore. Scatter on surface is a built-in modifier made with geometry nodes that you can come in here and tweak to your liking, make it however you like. That's literally your own 3D software. Which one is the other one? Well, here actually in the task by Simon, Geometry Nodes New Essential Assets for 5.0, there is a description and how to use them and everything, basically how they work, which is awesome. Oh, it even works with, it has its own attributes even. Distribution masks, you paint. Oh, that's amazing. You can paint where you want. Which, yes, you can set it up yourself, but you know how many steps you're saving with this? How much time you're saving with this? Wow. And this is just the beginning, because now that packed assets, what I said before, what I mentioned before, Blender can ship with built-in assets without making Blender too big, too large. And it's awesome. It's awesome. It's just can only think of all the possibilities, right? They're endless. And the next version of Blender, 5.1, 5.2, still to be decided, will feature online assets. That's a project that is being worked on now. So imagine you have these assets that come with Blender, not that many because you want Blender to stay light, and you can access more advanced, made by the community, more specific to your workflow assets that are built with geometry nodes, or even all other kind of assets like materials. That's amazing. The future is bright for Blender, at least. Let's see. What else is new? There are improvements to geometry nodes itself. The bundle and closure nodes now handle better the socket shapes. So when you when you connect a specific socket shape data type to that bundle, is gonna propagate the actual shape. So if you connect a field, it's gonna be field all the way. If you connect other socket shape, it's gonna propagate better. You can now search for strings and data block values. Interesting. Command or Control F now allows you to search for, oh wow, object light, object info. Oh, nice. What is it? Object is the type. We could use icons here, right? If we know the object type, we could show an icon, either an object icon or a light icon. Maybe the object data would be nice to show, because you may have 2 objects that are, maybe you have a mesh that is called light, and you want to know if it's the mesh or the light itself. Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you, Jack and Hans and everyone in the Geometry Nodes module. And this change, oh my God, there is another big feature coming that used to be in Node Wrangler and is being added to Blender. Let's hold on for a moment. We still have to go through this last change in Geometry Nodes, which adds the mix rotation node, which is a node that is already available in it with the mix node, but now it is like a convenience addition. Basically, it adds a shader node mix with the data type set to rotation. So it's a shortcut. You can just type mix rotation and it adds it to the nodes, which is super nice. And oh my God, see, like really, there is another feature that if Grease Pencil users, if you're a Grease Pencil user, you may have been waiting for this feature for the longest time, because it makes your strokes better if you want, if you make them more rounded, or more sharp, or more flat. Basically, you can now add your, you can now choose the ending, so the corner type of your strokes. This feature has been missing Blender for forever. The community has been waiting for it for so long. So by default, Blender would have this kind of pointy end, the geometry nodes strokes. But now you can choose. You can choose to keep it sharp, to make it flat, or to make it rounded. So you can see how rounded it is. And this is amazing. This it's not adding any geometry, it's just calculating in the shader itself. So it might be slightly more performance intensive, but it's not something that you, well, I mean, if you don't need it, don't enable it, just keep it as by default. But if you need to have rounded corners, and you can now use it. Actually, there are some numbers here. There is some performance table at some point where you can see some numbers. How is it with and without? But it's really not that much, maybe a milliseconds, second more, but yeah, worth it. So cool. Blender becoming a vector editor in a way. Let's see what else. The internationalization, loads of changes to make Blender available in other languages. Thank you, Damian, Cloud, and the community for helping translating Blender. Next, let's go for I4IO. There is one change for USD and Alembic. When exporting, the option for to enable the visible object only has been removed. Apparently, nobody was using it, and it just gets on the way, so it has been removed. If you miss it, please report it. Let people know, let developers know. But it has been removed. It remains controlled with the evaluation mode option, apparently. The visibility, I mean. Next, there are some changes to mesh, to metal. Metal, I don't think this is a workaround, but I don't think it's performance. No. Let's go to modeling. And here, let me tell you, I have good news for all the modelers out there, which is many people. Modeling is, it's a cornerstone of 3D. One developer that is over here is now working, has a grant by the development fund that will allow them to work on modeling stuff, like actual modeling bug fixes and improvements. This is possible thanks to the Blender Development Fund. So if you like to see more improvements in other areas and allow Blender Foundation, Blender Institute to hire more developers to work in those specific areas that are being abandoned, please join. Blender, the last release, there were 7,500, now there's 1,400, so it's stable at least. But it can always use a bit more help, more love. So the changes in modeling, there are two. One, support adding lattices to the selected objects. This is awesome. It's a small thing, but it's a quality of life improvement. Basically, when you have objects selected and you add a modifier, it will add them to the selected object. Isn't that great? Isn't that amazing? So yeah, small thing. That's how it should always be. Actually, in some cases, when you call, I think there is a one other. Oh no, for constraints. If you add constraints via the I don't know exactly which. I don't remember which one in particular. But if you add a constraint, there you go, with targets. If you select two objects and add constraint with targets, you will be they will be connected. Basically, they will make sense. So if I am a cube and I add a monkey and I select these two and add a constraint with targets, this is different from the add constraint in the properties editor. This one actually will connect these two. So if I do connect, and let's see, add with targets, and let's do attract to, now you see this already is pointing to the monkey. And this adds a constraint with all the, like what you would do by hand, basically. Go here, target, set the settings that are needed. Super nice. Okay, next. Okay, so I am being called, I think it's rapture time. Came a bit late, but it's a bit sunny here. It's only for a very brief time, so please bear with me. Let me continue. Another change in the modeling department is that when finding duplicates, Blender will now use a central vertex. What does it mean? Well, some improvement based on when you have, for example, when you use merge by distance, Blender would be a bit unexpected. Like it would pick some vertices that you were not expected to, and now it does. Now, for a cluster of 3 vertices, it's going to use the closest to the centroid of all 3. And when you have 2 vertices, it will use the one with the lowest index, which is probably the one you made before, the first one. This apparently is for a bug report from 2020. So now you can see that Tariq is the new developer, together with Campbell, are working on tackling old bugs. So it's good to see. Good to see. Next. Oh, let's talk about nodes, node editor. And this one, it's good that I have all the light in the world, because this is a gift from the heaven, the Quackaruni heaven. Quackaruni is a developer that has added back a feature from the Node Wrangler in Blender 4 or 3 point something. It was a feature that was removed at some point when there was a redesign of the menus in Blender itself, not in geometry nodes or Compositor, like in the node editor, and is now brought back thanks to developer Quackaruni. This option is called swap node, and I'm just gonna applause because this deserves the oh, Quackaruni is here. Oh my gosh, Quackaruni, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Besides having the best nickname in the world, this is amazing. Thank you so much for working, because you not only brought back the swap to node, you made it so much better in so many levels. The old swap node was hard-coded list of nodes, and it only worked with one node. It had so many limitations. It wasn't very smart. If you replace a math node with another math node, it wouldn't preserve the math type, or anyways, you just made it better. The commit reads, swap node operator, implement a native method to swap between different node and zone types. This implementation repurposes the existing menu definition as a base class, from which both add and swap version could be generated from. Yay, future-proof. This allowed both menus to have the same layout, but use their own operators for handling the different node zone types. In this PR, support for all the node editors has been implemented. This is amazing. Awesome. All right, let's see it in action. Well, what can I do? All right, so let's see. I have an RTV to this, and I want to convert it with a mix, right? So I just do, the shortcut is Shift S, but you can also go to node, swap, and find the node here, but it's better just Shift S. The same shortcut that in Blender 4.5 is gonna tell you this amazing message, which I really hate, which is, it says, this operator is removed due to changes on the node menus. A native implementation is expected in the future. Well, welcome to the future, thanks to Quackaruni. You can now shift S and switch it to whatever. Alpha over, cool. If it can, it's gonna keep the connections. If it can't, in this case, it's different. It doesn't make sense. Which one has an image and a factor output? Maybe the ramp. Ramp doesn't have an input in. But anyway, you can switch. You can even swap multiple. You can select. If I have, let's see, brightness contrast, which this one is called bright. It's also gonna be renamed. Don't worry. But if I have a bunch of nodes, these two nodes, let's add a bunch of nodes, all of these, and I just want a bunch of color ramps, I can just select them all, Shift S, color ramp, and it should work actually in multiple. There you go. It did it. Oh, for some reason it didn't work before. These two did. What was different? Or maybe it's gonna... now it worked. For some reason, there's one little change. This is amazing. This is awesome. Quality of life. Improvement. Shift S is back. Thanks, Quackaruni. Next, shortcut. Yes, there is a new shortcut, but it's an old shortcut for a new feature. This is another quality of life improvement by Jack. Jack Luke added a... You know, how do you join meshes in edit mode? Right, you are in edit mode, you have these two, you do Control J to join. Well, this Control J now also works in the for the group input nodes. So if you have a geometry node setup, for example, right, we have this geometry node setup, and I have, let's see if there's a few group inputs here. So I want to join these three because I have too many, or maybe I can search for all of them and join them. You know, you can search if you do Control F. No, you can do select of the same type. Select grouped by type, and then it will select all of them with the same type. So you could join them, but I'm not gonna do that for the demo here. And let's try to join these three. So the same shortcut, Control J, bam. It's now one node. Yay! Small quality of life improvement, but with a shortcut that you don't need to relearn because it's elsewhere in Blender. I love it. I love it when that happens. And also that's thanks to the shortcut for frame that was changed. Remember, it used Control J. I think it used to be add a frame in previous versions. Now frame is with F, and you can actually give it a name, and it works. And if you want to unframe something, you can also just drag it and then press F to unframe it. So cool. Anyways, let's see what else is new. Another new node in town. Today is a massive show. Like if you want to just show someone outside of the Blender bubble, today's show is like, bah, developers are on fire. And actually they are on fire. As I am now with this sun that it doesn't set. Let me try to make it a bit more. There you go. Cool. That's me. All right. New node in town called radial tiling. This node, on its own, the main functionality of the radial tiling node is the ability to divide a 2D Cartesian coordinate system into as many radial segments as specified by the segment inputs. Pictures. Show me pictures. There you go. So you give it a vector 2D, you just find the segments and roundness, and then it will give you this node. So you can do this kind of amazing things. I know someone who really like this. That's awesome. So this is the roundness that you can give it. Nice. Wow. Just alone this being able to do these kind of things. Tiling even. So cool. So welcome radial tiling to Blender, to the Blender family, thanks to Raiko. Thank you, Raiko, and everybody who's pretty much everyone review this. So cool. Getting warm here. Open the window. Let's see what else is new. Oh, the asset state icon in breadcrumbs has been is now part of the breadcrumbs of the context path that you see on the top. There are now when you have something linked, then the node group icon will become the linked icon, because it's basically the same thing. Like after the first modifier, geometry nodes, they're all node groups. So might as well use the icon to tell something important. Like in this case, hey, this is linked. Also for assets, if you are inside of an node group asset, you will see the asset icon, not the node group, because everything is a node group. Cool. So, and the same case for the packed assets. So if we are here and I enter a packed asset, I will see the icon here. So, well, I can't zoom in because it's fixed in space. That's awesome. That was by Pratik. Thank you, Pratik. Habib added forward compatibility for the world for the use nodes option that was removed. This is something that was part of the previous change. Then there's a few quality of life improvements by Brady Johnston. Render socket data types list. The list has been reordered so it matches when you have these data types. It used to have different order in different menus. Now it all matches. So thank you for that. Consistency for the win. Another quality of life improvement is that when you add a new reroute node, reroute like the shift right click, is going to make it active. So you can rename right away. Before it wouldn't make it active. So it's good to see this fixed quality of life. Speaking of quality of life, this change by Jack also improves the, makes it so the output visibility, not only the input visibility, like show or not show sockets or inputs or outputs, depending on the whatever is evaluated. Now, this would also work for outputs. This used to be only for inputs, where inputs will get grayed out or will disappear depending on the visibility. But now they are gonna work. They should work on, let's see if we can open it. Now it should work for outputs too. So like towards the, if you change these options, there you go. So you change this option and outside, these options are gonna show up or not. This is the node group and this is the outside. No, this is inside of this node group. So nice. More and more steps to make node groups native, pretty much. Like now we need color ramps and curve widgets, which there are a few patches, but yes. Let's see what else is new. Add button in switch nodes to add inputs. Another quality of life improvement that adds a little plus icon in the menu switch, so you don't have to go to the sidebar all the time. So you will see now in the menu switch and the index switch, this plus icon that you can press to keep adding inputs, and you can control click on them to rename those inputs. So you don't have to, let's see if I can waste your time by showing this here and failing. Let's see, index switch. Yep, here, there you go. So I add a new one, 3, 4, and then I can control click or shift click. What was the name? The shortcut? No, wait, that is the menu switch. That is index, stupid. Menu switch, there you go. So now I can control click to rename. That we need to make it a bit more visible, I think. But yeah, basically you can add more and then maybe double click. No, because it wouldn't work now. But yeah, and also the highlight needs to be control click and then this needs to be highlighted more. Yeah, that's how you rename menu switches, and you can add them from here. Quality of life. It's a bit annoying that you click and it's just everything gets pulled down, but what to do, right? Move the view, move the node up would be even more annoying. Okay, Next, menu switch labels. Oh, this is also great. The labels in the index switch now are going to show you not only the name, but also the label that comes from that name. So the one that matches, so 0, 0 line, circle, curve, transform. This is automatically now. It comes from the sockets themselves. So cool. Next is another quality of life by Jack. And descriptions in the menu switch now. This is also something that is important, the tooltips. And more changes. This one, also by Jack. This is very recent, actually. This is from yesterday. It makes it adds a new option where you can define if you can make it so, let's see. Here, so let's look at it. So you can see this optional label setting, how when it's enabled, it will make it so it will hide the, it's hard to see, but here, camera, colon, object. You don't need that. Sometimes you don't need the you don't need to show that. It's obvious that it's a camera because of context, or just because you don't want to have that label in for a more thin node. Well, now you can toggle that option. You can hide that optional label. It's a strange name, optional label, but the thing is, you can't force it on all sockets. So it's optional. That's the thing. It's like whenever I can do it. Let's see. Let's see what else is new. Support searching for group inputs. Yep, now you can search for group inputs. This simplified. This extends Control F search to also search for some socket values. This is what we had before for objects themselves, for data blocks, but now this is for group inputs. Super nice. All right. Oh, for OpenEXR, that was all for nodes, and we're still missing some sections. Then 3 changes related to writing and reading OpenEXRs. Now, OpenEXR has support for reading multi-part files with full channel names. The reading code currently assumes that part of the name will be, for example, view layer combined, and then the channel within the part may be R. For example, Houdini writes files like this. However, according to the docs, the part name should be ignored and the channel name in each part should be complete, like view layer combined.r. So this supports both cases. We now only prepend the part name if it's not already there. But Blender can also write now multi-part OpenEXRs. The new interleave option in image format settings, enabled by default in all files and disabled in new ones, allows you to write multi-part files. And last but not least, you in OpenEXR now, Blender will write the color space metadata for multi-layer EXRs. Awesome. Interoperability. It seems like Blender 5 is a good one for production, for doing production stuff, because especially when sharing renders with other engines, with other software, it's just awesome. Oh, for outliner, a small option, a small quality of life improvement, but when in data API view, Blender will now scroll to the view when you show active. When you show the selected object and press dot, it will scroll the view. Small thing, should have been there since day one, but it's now here. R for render, there is rename render passes for clarity. Yeah, this one is gonna break a few things. It's a breaking change, but it's a good one. The passes finally have been renamed. So in the very old OpenEXR version, there was a limit on the channel names, which meant that pass names needed to be something like diff there, and now they can be longer. They support longer names such as diffuse direct. It breaks forward compatibility, so all Blender versions will lose the links for reading compositing node setups for select passes, but you can use 4.5 LTS to fix it. And yeah, add-on scripts also gonna break. and that rely on these names specifically, they're also gonna break, but they just need updating. Just something you update once and it should work. So nice. What are the names? So you can actually look at the code itself to see which ones are being renamed. So Z object index instead of index obj, index ob, index ma. This is great. This is something that is good to see. Blender 5 is one of those that are actually good to see, like emission instead of emit, ambient occlusion instead of AO. It's good to see. Quality of life. Next, shader nodes. There are improvements even in shader nodes. Support for menu switch. Yes, more of this Blender working with Blender. The shader nodes now support menu switch. So if we open this and look at this video, you can now see how my noise has a few options, because from the menu you can choose two different options. This is a node group, even though it doesn't look like it. It's a node group and it has two different options that hide or show settings, because menu switch is now supported for material. So material assets and general material business is gonna be big on this release because of all these changes. It's gonna make them so much more user friendly. You don't need to you're not gonna see settings that don't make any sense, any change. So good, so good. A new change also by Quackaroni: add mix vector to shader editor add menu. Same as before, it's a quality of life improvement that just makes it more convenient to add a mix vector instead of having to add mix and then vector. So super welcome change. It's one of those things that if you look at the code, it's just, instead of adding the operator, just adds the shader node mix, data type, vector, small quality of life. Awesome. Thank you, Quackaroni. Next, move the small change. Move repeat and closure / bundle nodes into the utility submenu in shaders. Although there is another PR that it's related to these changes, where all the add menus for each editor, compositor, geometry nodes, shader nodes it's gonna be unified. So things are gonna move a bit for consistency. Basically, they're all gonna be similar. So when you know that the vector nodes are inside of utilities in geometry nodes, then you go to shader nodes and it's gonna be in the same place. And then you go to compositing nodes and it's in the same place. So a bit of muscle memory is gonna be lost there, but quickly you're gonna make it. You're gonna learn it again because it will be consistent. It will be consistent. All right, shape keys, new options for the shape key update and join operators that you can now mirror. It's a new option which adds a mirror to join as shapes and update from objects, and additional menu items with the option enabled, like the operator. This is a convenience feature. So let's see it in action. I'm gonna select the cube here and add shape keys, and in shape keys there are a few operators which should say flipped. Yeah, this is the flipped option. So new object flipped and update from objects flipped. Nice. Or you can just flip this one. So cool. What else? Gee, these people keep working. Spreadsheet, improved tooltip of matrix column. This improvement by W Cloud, which, if you remember the last episode, this person made it so the attribute text in the viewport is much more readable. And now this person made the same for the tooltips in the spreadsheet. So this is how it used to look. Readable, but not the best. And this is how it looks now. It's all right aligned, so the numbers make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a matrix. So cool. So thank you. Let's see T4 templates. This is a quick one, although 2 templates have been updated, but the new one, there is a new template. I don't know if you notice, if you've been using Blender lately. When you open Blender, let's open, let's not open a new Blender. Let's go to layout. So you open Blender, you have the splash screen, and you may have noticed some changes over here. This is part of the UI changes I'm going to mention later, but there are icons on this side. Hey, and there is a new one which is called storyboarding. So do you actually use these templates? They're super cool. You can start a 2D animation template. So you start 2D and then you go, you draw. Is everything set up for 2D animation? Awesome. Then you do Control-N, Command-N. You can go to sculpting, right? You just go straight to sculpting. This is awesome. Well, now you can go straight into storyboarding. And Pablo, what's different between 2D animation and storyboarding? Well, storyboarding, it's similar to the animation, but it includes a video sequence editor, which shows a different scene than the one you're working on. So the one you're working on is going to be your shots, your new shots in your sequence, whereas the sequence editor is going to show you the whole movie. Look. So when you start a new storyboarding setup, looks like this. You can start drawing right away, and then you will see down here that there is a video sequence editor. Nice. With a timeline. When you move around the timeline, you see, hey, I'm in another shot, so shot 2. And then I can draw something else. And then I go back, and I'm in 2 different scenes. It doesn't look like it, but if you look up here, it says shot 001, shot 002. This is a scene, which, if you know, in Blender, a scene is an entire blend file. I can have, I don't know, sprite fright here and caminantes in this other scene, because it's an entire blend file, basically, a scene. And now I can switch very quickly from them. And I can add even new ones. Okay, let's say I really like this and I want to make a new shot in my scene. I can go to here, duplicate it, Shift D, and then I'm here. And then I can just start maybe sculpting. I can change the here, this shot, because I want to make it like that. Awesome. And then I go back and look at that. I'm still in sculpt mode, but in a different scene. So I can actually tweak this. Yeah, there is a small issue. Well, it's a limitation currently that the brushes are per scene. This is stupid. This should be consistent, but for the time being, it is what it is. When you switch scenes from the sequencer, the active brush will change. It's a limitation we know. It's gonna be fixed eventually. But look at this. It's amazing. Have you noticed too that how the dope sheet here shows a different timeline? And then you can make this sequence shorter, right? And once you're here, you can actually press S for sliding, and you're sliding the timeline in another scene from within the edit scene. That's awesome. Here you see edit scene. That is amazing. So small. I don't know if you see the potential in this. You're basically storyboarding a whole movie, which each one is its own scene. You can add your own characters, your own everything, right? Because this is a scene. So if I have an asset browser with some geometry stuff, some instances, some hair brushes, let's see, do I have any? I don't have any character here, but you see what I mean. You just drag and drop characters into each shot and you make your own storyboarding, or your own movie. Actually, it is called storyboarding because it is 2D, but this is Blender. You can add anything. It's awesome. Anyway, that is a new storyboarding tab template. A lot of work has gone into that, so props to everyone involved, from Folk, Dalai, Richard, Aras, and Sergey, anyone working on this. It's a big milestone. Let's see. Small minimum updates to the 2D animation templates. You may have noticed that when you open the 2D animation template, there is no more timeline. Small thing, because the timeline is going away and is being replaced with these playback controls. If you go to view, you can enable the playback controls or not, which show the these buttons. All right, let's continue. T4 texture paints. One new feature, small one, worth mentioning. It's the new catalogs are always going to be visible by default in texture paint mode. Small thing. Then it's time to talk about the user interface changes, and I'm almost there. I hope you're still alive. I am, but my voice is running out. It's I'll try to speak a bit more quietly. Let's start with the splash. I just mentioned the splash is slightly different. I don't know if you notice, it's a very small thing. So when you open Blender, the splash looks like this. It has these icons on the side. It has 6 templates. And now here you have 5 recent files, and then you have more. This is a feature that was added by Jack a few days ago. It allows you to search for more recent files, like up to 200 recent files. No longer limited. You're no longer limited by the list. This is 20, I think, max by default. But now you can click on more, and you can search up to 200 recent files. That's awesome. Of course, I don't think I ever opened 200 files in this setup because I'm developing, so I remove my preferences all the time. And that's it. There's not much more that has changed. There is now a visual divider here in the menu, and these 2 options have been swapped. And the donate is now called donate to Blender to make it more visible, because some people maybe didn't get the context of donation. Donate to Blender. Because it could be anything, right? Donate in general. Let's see. Next is a new, well, it's a theme option that has been moved from the theme into the camera properties. So it is now possible to set in the camera view, the same way you have composition colors. So if you options. So if you go to viewport display, composition guides, you can toggle all these options on and off. You want to see the thirds, for example. Well, the thing is, this was using a theme option, a theme preference. The thing is, what you see through the camera changes all the time. There's no way one theme option would be able to, to work on everything that is behind the camera. So now it's an option. It's a color option that you can tweak per camera. So I can have this camera in green. I can have this other one in purple, and then each one is going to have its own color. It's per camera. Super nice. Small quality of life improvement by Nika. Thank you, Nika. Then speaking of theme options, there are new options to theme the curves widget. Do you know the curves widget? Let's go to geometry nodes and add a new widget, like float curve or vector curve. This one in particular. There you go. So this is, so by the way, you're looking at a theme that I'm working on. Please tell me you like it. I'm working on it still. Just let me know. Anyway, by default, Blender shows like this option. This is how Blender looks by default now if you download it. And these options here, this widget used to be a mix of the regular styling. It was really all over the place. So if you look for curves, vector curves, this here is how it used to look. And to theme this, you would have to actually go and find the regular button and change the color here. But the thing is, the regular button is something else, right? The regular button is these buttons or this, and it didn't make any sense. It was reusing settings that it shouldn't, and also it was backwards. The background is lighter than the actual shape you want to see. So in Blender 5, this widget has its own theme settings. Under user interface, under curve, you can now tweak this and tweak it to your likings. So you can make this in a color that you prefer. And you also have the background that you can do if you change the inner options. You can make it darker. So yeah, you can go nuts with this, and it's not going to affect anything but this widget. Super nice. And of course, this widget is all over the place. If you do like Bevel with profile custom, it's the same widget and even works with the presets that you have here. I don't know if have you ever seen this? Super cool. Blender comes with predefined custom molding shapes for Bevel, but you need more segments to see this actually. Yeah, super nice. What else? That's it. Yeah, so let's go back to this other theme. This is how it looks at the moment. It has blue, but you can change even the highlight for the actual line and for the points themselves. Let's see. Generalize, more theme changes. So geometry attributes are now more general. So attributes such as bevel, freestyle, edge, and sharpness, they're all more generalized, and they can be adjusted under, where was it? In user dev, Blender Lite, versioning, overlay. Here, I should go to the pull requests because Nika makes really nice pull requests. There you go. So this is in the 3D viewport. Yes, although this should be maybe more general because this will be used in other places, right? You don't only see, well, yeah, today you do, but eventually you could see these things elsewhere. So bevel, seam, sharp, edge. It used to be like edge, sharp, vertex, sharp, edge, bevel, vertex, level, bevel, and didn't make any sense. Most themes usually use the same setting, so now it's all unified. Less things to change, yes. Speaking of less things to change, 2 properties have been removed. Face.color property just uses the face because really nobody was using it, and some settings were not even used in the code itself. And the active spline property also has been removed. It's now black by default, I think, or is using one of the gizmos. The same, yes. Paint curve theme colors also had its own theme settings for something that you don't really use that often. And yeah, now it's actually using the gizmo colors. So it will look like this instead of having its own colors for something that we already have the same concept elsewhere in Blender. Next, editor descriptions. Yeah, so I don't know if you ever noticed or if you even care about this, but the editors in Blender, these editors, some of them didn't even have a tooltip, or the tooltip was like completely useless. There was one in Blender 4.5, the tooltip for the image editor is called view the image. Which image? The image. And some of them didn't even have anything. Like drivers was edit drivers. Yeah, but what is a driver? Blender, tell me. And some of them didn't even have a tooltip, like file browser and asset browser. No tooltip at all. And yeah, that's not great. So now they do have a tooltip. So the file browser tells you it's a built-in finisher for opening, saving, and linking data. Drivers, what are drivers? Well, is define and edit drivers that link properties to custom functions or other data. Or image editor, view, inspect images or render results. Nice. The same for geometry nodes. It used to just say geometry nodes. Now it says advanced geometry editing and tools creation and using nodes. Video editor, also non-linear editor for arranging and mixing scenes, because many people forget that Blender's video editor can also mix scenes, like we've seen in the storyboard template, audio and effects. Next, node group indicator and minor style tweaks. Yeah, the node groups now look slightly different. So if you look at the, if I make a node group here, well, first, I can go outside of the node group by double click. I can double click to exit or double click to go in. Then this node group now has an indicator that is a bit less obvious. It used to have an icon up here, but the thing is, you've seen today that we have more built-in assets, right? Those are node groups. Eventually, not everything, but pretty much everything that is a bit more advanced than the built-in nodes, they're going to become node groups. So at some point, you just don't need to know that something is a node group. You don't need to, there is no point in it. So now they are a little indicator, which has this thingy, which is like a kind of like a stacked effect, similar to in, for example, when you have photos, albums, and they have multiple things behind, or when you are in like on YouTube and you look for a playlist, the playlists have like these two copies behind. Similar concept, and that's it. So it shows like that, and then you can double click to go in and out. That's it. Next, let's see. Indicate pack status in the this is what we just mentioned before. It's an addition that makes it so packed assets show up in the context bar. Then in the add modifier menu, go to add modifier. Geometry nodes now is last. There was some feedback on that. Maybe it should be before, but the thing is, it used to be on the top, and by default, when you add a new geometry nodes modifier, it's empty. It's like not really handy by default. You have to create new, and then unless you're looking at the node editor, then it doesn't really tells you anything. You're like, yeah, now what? So yeah, less relevant. I think power users are most likely to just make one from the node editor, which adds a new one anyway. So I didn't see the need for this to be on the top geometry nodes. Next, shorten display device. Okay, these are a few labels that got shortened. This is just a visual change. Display device becomes display. View transform becomes view. Just shorter labels. Point cloud statistics. This is a quality of life improvement. Actually, this is a bug fix more or less. The point clouds statistics used to show 0, even though you have a bunch of points, 0. Now it shows, and it shows 0 vertices, which is also weird. Now it shows how many points you have in your point cloud, which is super nice. Do we have a point cloud? By default, it has a point cloud. So if I go to edit mode and I have the stats, I see this. This is 4.5 LTS. Gee, that's old. That's really old. Let's see. If I had a point cloud here, edit mode, and then I go to stats, I see the points. I want to, if I select a cube and both, it shows one object. Because I can't enter edit mode of both. Of course, if I have two objects and I select them, I can, but you can't enter on both. Okay, makes sense. I wanted to see if it would mix vertices and points at the same time, but no. Next. Tool tips qualification, drop down toggle for, nice. Grease pencil pressure curves now have a drop down that toggles the curve pressure options. I think I mentioned this in the past. So if you have if you are on grease pencil drawing, and then you change the brush, so it depends on the tool actually that I'm using, you should be able to see this. So you can collapse the pressure sensitivity curve for grease pencil. Next. And this should actually gray out. Yeah, it grays out properly when you're not using sensitivity. Makes sense. Actually, this also should be grayed out. This guy. Because it's a child of this option. Next. Then show preset. Add preset curve buttons for curve mapping template. Yeah, this is a bunch of presets added to curves. So curve mapping now has a few options available, which makes it quicker to add this. where could I show you that? Well, there under the curve mapping widget, there you will see different options to have predefined curves, so you don't have to write the curve, draw the curve every time. Next, show preset controls for brush strength, jitter, and size. Actually here, I think here we can actually see it in action. So I have the curve and these options down here allow you to make a new curve drawing without actually adding the points yourself. It's a lot more precise. Next, when you're working with linked items, the labels are going to be grayed out. Before, it used to always show, it would gray out only the actual data, like the widget, but not the labels. Now the labels are also going to be grayed out. Quality of life makes it easy to see, like, hey, I can't edit this thing, must be linked or something. Next, speaking of graying out, show object origins is not available in paint modes, so now it's gonna be grayed out when you're in paint modes. The operators in the view menu, which recently were moved into a sub-menu, now they're moving back based on user feedback. They're called render viewport preview, the OpenGL renders, and now render playblast, which makes the animation, render animation. Then we have overlay support for the movie clip editor. This is pretty big. So the movie clip editor, or also known as motion tracker editor, now has its own overlay settings. So distortion grid, cursor annotations, pattern path, all the options that I think they were scattered in other places. Now they are in its own viewport overlay with its own even panel. Actually, one thing missing here is that when this is off, all these options should be grayed out. We do that elsewhere, and I think it makes it clear, like if it is grayed out, it's because the parent is not on. So small thing I need to mention to Aaron. Let's see. What else? Consistent header layout. Wow. Lots of love by Aaron on the ID selectors and display properties are now gonna be in a similar place as in image editor or other editors. Consistency. The outliner, it's not when looking at Blender file view, the outliner used to show all ID types, all data block types, even those that were empty. So if you never added a speaker data block in your life, you would still see them. So it would make the list very long. Now, Blender would only show those where there is actual data in them. For example, here, grease pencil, cameras, collections, libraries, there was no items here. They were still showing them, so not anymore. Nice. Then the animation footer are now named playback controls. I mentioned that before. And another quality of life for shape keys is that now you can drag and drop multiple shape keys at the same time. So you can shift select or control select if you want to select specific ones and drag and drop them, bam, to sort them out. Super, super nice. Thank you for this, Pratik. And we're getting close to the end. One of them is the preference, user preference. By default, Blender will now save all the blend files with compression. So this is an option that it's been there for a long time, even in 4.5. Actually, if you go to the preferences, save and load, there is an option called compress file, which is off by default in Blender 4.5 and now on by default in 5.0 onwards. That's because compression in Blender has gotten pretty good, actually. There is no real time penalty for saving compressed files or loading compressed files as it used to be back in the days. So now it's on by default. There are many benefits. And time to talk about the video sequence editor. And for that, I'm going to need a little break because I'm been talking for 2 hours. So, you know, if you watch this show often, you'll remember that I always say that I think Blender, like a focus of Blender developers and Blender in general, Blender development, should be of making Blender work better with Blender. EEVEE shaders should look relatively okay in cycles, right? Or any format, any format should work well, or inside of Blender, or shortcuts. If you are used to a shortcut in modeling and you move to animation or node editing, you should all use the same shortcut. So that concept, I love it when we keep applying it. And for the first time in 30 plus years, Blender's video sequence editor can now talk to the compositor and vice versa, because there is a new modifier in town called the video sequencer strip modifier called Compositor. This is a long-awaited feature. This is one of those things that people have been requesting it forever, right? This is nothing new. The thing is, it's not easy, because the render pipeline in Blender it's always had this order, right? It's like you render, you composite, and then you video edit at the end. But now tables have turned for the first time. So it works as you would expect, actually. You are here, right, in your very nice video edit. I happen to have here one image. Nice. You can also do videos, of course. And you can add a new modifier, which, by the way, the UI for modifiers, it looks so much better now. And it's one called Compositor. You add a new compositor node, you can create a new one. It's like, oh, nice, called sequencer compositor nodes. Neat. So now you can go to the compositor and you will find a new option up here, which is scene, and you can switch to sequencer. And now I am editing this node, this modifier here. So let's say I want to change the color here, right? I can go to like RGB curves and apply it here and then adjust it. And then wow, nice. Yeah, Pablo, I could do that before because there is literally a modifier called curves. Well, okay, let's try something more intense. What's not here? Blur. You cannot blur. Well, I know where I can blur. Here. And I can blur my image. There you go. Oh my gosh. Nice. What else can I do here? Well, anything. Like Kuwahara filter. One of my favorites. And here, bam. The filter is working in the compositor, where you would expect it to work. Blender working with Blender. Then let's see what else. Let's see, I don't know, anything really, because it's the entire compositor. It's not like a baby compositor. It's the entire thing. Filters and glare. Can I glare my image? This is the image that I did for the conference, Blender conference. So can I glare this? Let's see. So let's more fade, color modulation. Let's bloom. There you go. Is it doing anything? Can I get the highlights? It's not doing much. Well, I picked the wrong image, I think, because maybe glare needs the threshold to be higher and the image is not deep enough. Let's do pixelate, posterate. I don't know. Anything is possible, except the things that you want to show on a live stream. But look at that, pixelate node in the compositor. Anyways, the concept is so simple, right? You would be like, yeah, of course, Blender has a compositor since 2005 and a sequencer since who knows when. Now Kiss. But it was a lot of work. So congrats to everyone in the modules. This is a cross-module thing. This is the video sequencer module talking to the compositor module. It's awesome. I don't know. It's so good in so many levels. My threshold was too low. Thank you, Bobo. The imp. Thank you. And that's it. That is, can I keyframe? That's a good question. So can I keyframe? So I can keyframe this here and then I go here and then I make it 0 pixels, is it gonna be keyframe? So if I go here, am I like half size? Oh yeah, it is animated. Bam. Okay, it's not the fastest thing in the world. Actually, it is. Oh wow, because it's caching it, of course. Look at this. This up here is the cache. So now, oh, that's amazing. Caching. That's one of the things that people request often for the compositor, to have cache. We don't have cache. Not like cache as in money and cache as in cache. Cache. And now we do. Now we do. Can I add texture? Can I add a bononoid texture? Wow, yes I can. All right, the sky is the limit. Yes. So this is like how can we say? This is a fusion between the sequencer and the compositor, where you apply effects after, and with this you can now nuke other software for simple things that Blender can handle. Yeah, kind of. Was that a clear? Let's see. It's amazing. I just can't wait to see what people can do with this. It's awesome. And that's not only the only updates in the video sequencer. There is so much more. There is the scene strip menu now is much nicer, because when you add a new scene, and the assets are gonna be there. This is related to what we did before with the storyboarding, and this is actually for the storyboarding. So if you have a new scene, for example, let's duplicate this. Let's make an asset. So my scene asset, now I will see the asset listed here. So edit 001, my template VFX. So there you go, my template VFX. So cool. And when I add it here, it's gonna add it as a new scene, so I can just go back and forth. It's awesome. This is amazing. All right. Scene asset behavior. Always add a new scene. Yeah, when you add a new scene asset, it will make a new scene by default. So it will make a copy, so you don't have to. So you don't reuse. So you don't edit your original asset like I had before. For example, an asset could be a template that you use for the storyboarding. Say you have your storyboard set up with an exact frame or 5 characters that you always use. You don't want to edit that template. You want to make a new scene. So that's what happens now when you add a new scene via the Shift-A menu. Also, the modes are synced when switching scenes. What I just showed you today, that I was in sculpt mode of grease pencil and I switched between scenes, that wasn't possible until a few hours ago. Literally, if you download Blender from the Buildbot, you're not going to have that feature yet. Like today, now I was live. You need to wait until tomorrow's build, because literally that change was done by Folk a few hours ago, right before lunch. So thank you, Folk, for making Blender awesome. And that's it. That's everything that is new in Blender today. Isn't that crazy? I had many moments when going through this list. It's like, okay, this can be the title of the live stream, like node swap. That can just be the title. But there's so many other things like, oh, okay, menu switch in shader nodes. That's also huge, and so on and so forth. Blender 5 it's gonna be a big one. Of course, it breaks compatibility with a lot of things in the past, but you know, you don't have to uninstall Blender. Like today I was seeing another YouTube comment. I see a lot of YouTube comments. I see your YouTube comments, of course, but I also watch many tutorials to see what people think of a feature and if it's easy to use or not. And I look at the comments to see if any people are confused. I try to help. And sometimes you read things like, oh, now I have to install Blender 5, but this is gonna break my add-ons. And it's like, you don't have to install Blender 5. You don't have to install any Blender. When you download Blender, you can download the portable version, which is a zip. It's the entire Blender is in one folder. You can put it on your desktop or in a USB stick if you want, and just carry it with you. You don't have to. If you install add-ons in that version, it's not gonna mess up the older versions. It's each Blender version has its own folder in your system, so they don't talk to each other. They're independent. So don't be scared to try new Blender versions. Of course, don't do it with production files and save over. Don't mix versions. Use them, but if a file is made with 5, you keep using it 5, and the same with previous versions. And that's it. That's all. Well, okay, no, that's not all. We have Blender community. I hope there are not so many questions. Let's see how many questions. Blender. 11 questions. That's about the number we usually get. Please tell me that most are answered. Let's see, because I don't know if you get to hear it, but my belly it's mad. It's like, give me food. It's like, really. I don't know why exactly. Let's see. Okay, let's start with the last comment by Daniel Lapalm. Thank you for making the post. Hope you're well. Blender conference plague aside. Yes, I am. I'm recovering. Thank you. So Daniel Lapalm says, I'm digging the new node group look and double click to enter Live is cool too. I was wondering if, thank you. I was wondering if some hotkeys might also be considered for entering living. Double click works fine and should stay on, but Blender also avoids double click here and there. Like alt click for edge select loops. I for in and out for outs in Advent that has been used by others, something like that. Well, there is a shortcut already, which is tab. You can tab in and tab out of node groups already. So double click is just basically another way of accessing without. By the way, do you like this 3D cursor? I'm experimenting with it. It's a 3D cursor, but actually has colors in it. So so you can tell which direction is it going. And because before, I don't know if you remember, is this one, the red white one, which doesn't tell you which direction is pointing, and this one tries to help with that. What was I saying? The node groups. Yeah, if you have a node group, you don't use the shortcut to minimize, you can press tab to go in and out, just like you would on a regular on a mesh. The double click is so you can also use it with your pen on a tablet or in an iPad or an Android tablet or a Wacom tablet. So yeah. Next, Usuamel says, hi Pablo, greetings from Brazil. Will the Compositor nodes support LUTs lookup tables? It would be super cool to have a LUT input node. Okay, I think you do that through color management. We don't have something like that in the Compositor. No, we don't have that actually. But I don't see why not. Now that color management is being pushed so much, maybe it's something from the community. It's a very isolated project that it would be cool actually, because the video sequence editor, yeah, it doesn't have LUTs. So if you load your, like this footage from this camera with log, you don't have LUTs. So that would be great. But maybe something for the community to help. Please. Next question. Thank you, Nanabad, for answering. Greetings, Pablo says, bye LAN. I have been following the progress of the swap node operator, and finally, it's great news to have the functionality return after 2 years. Remember, I like how you remember even the date of removal, which is usually at the end of the year for big versions like Blender 5. It comes a few days before Blender 4 2 years ago. One question, is it possible to port this change over to 4.2 and 4.5? If not, is possible to change? No. So the reason why it's not possible, it's mainly because Blender 4.5 and 4.2 are active in terms of support, but this is not support. This is adding a new feature, which is can mess with can introduce bugs basically. So no, the feature will be for 5.0 onwards. I mean, it could be technically maybe called a bug fix, but I would rather have Quackaroni tackle new work, new features. But thank you. Next question. Mil Porte says, hi, Pablo, my second question. I hope the simulation notes that at the moment doesn't use physics, by the way. I heard, thank you. It's not intended to replace the actual particle and physics system, which is tools for force fields. I don't want to rewrite my own with thousands and thousands of nodes and math and entire professional particle systems. Related to this, regard fluids, what about MantaFlow? What about it? I think MantaFlow hasn't seen any new updates. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think there's any new updates coming to MantaFlow. I think we have more chances of introducing something like flip fluids than MantaFlow, unfortunately. Then physics. Well, physics are planned, actually. I don't know if you've seen Tom's presentation where he mentioned that physics are coming, physics-based with node-based physics are coming to Blender 5, which some people might have thought that is Blender 5.0, but it's not. Tom said 5. That gives us 2 years to add them, but it's closer than 2 years, I hope. From what I look, it seems to be closer than 2 years, but maybe before the next LTS even. The next LTS is 5.2, so maybe. Let's see. So 5.2 should be July next year. And next question by Chrisidian says, hey Pablo, 5.0 is looking incredibly exciting. And I'm still catching up with all the Blender talks to you. I'll report as many bugs as I can, thank you, as I can in the upcoming weeks, and hope Blender's beta will be long enough to make 5.0 stable for release despite all the new changes and additions. Well, Blender 5.0 beta will be as long as every other release until it's, I mean, Blender 5.0 beta starts next week on the 8th of October and lasts until the week before the release. So 1 month, exactly 1 month, because Blender release happens on the 11th of November. There is 1 week release candidate before that. So that's the beta. However, if there are many bug reports, especially high priority bug reports, like, I don't know, 50 bug reports, high priority, it's not gonna be released. It doesn't make sense to release there's no one's pushing us, right? We don't have paying customers. We have an amazing community, supportive community that wants the best software possible, the most stable software possible. So I think community will be fine if the developers say, hey, Blender 5 is too buggy, let's wait 1, 2, 3, well, 3 weeks too much, but maybe 1-2 weeks and focus on fixing. But you have to report the bugs, so please report anything that you may find. There is people, like part of the Blender Development Fund money goes to paying developers that triage those bugs. It's not just new features. There is people whose job is like 5 days a week, full-time or part-time. They are working on just triaging bugs, fixing some, and sending some other, the more complex ones, or that is out of the area, to other developers. So let's see. Since the compositor is getting so much love, says Chrisidian, and is becoming more and more important for stylized 3D and more, are there design proposals or even pull requests regarding support for cycles passes in the viewport compositor? No, and it's one of the things that I miss the most. I love the compositor, but I wouldn't call it feature complete until we have passes, actual passes. It's a general feature parity between engines when it comes to the viewport compositor. Yeah, I'm one of you. I really miss it, but it's hard, right? Like how do you mix passes or render layers? Because passes support maybe simpler in a way, but render layer support. How do you show the active render layer or switch render layers, mix render layers? Yeah. Anyway, also, will Compositor Essential Assets make it to 5.0? I've been active in the design proposals there. Good question. They should, at least the basic ones like Vignette and what are the other ones? Vignette, Lens Distortion, Bloom. I think there are a few effects that should be essentials. But I don't know, actually, I should check the task. You probably know more than I do. Next question. Ilot says, hope you're doing great. Thank you. I've made my own custom scatter for my studio. It's called exactly the same as the new built-in one. So question, will the presence of the built-in scatter automatically rename mine to scatter on surface 001? Probably yes, because the built-in one gets loaded first. Although, because it's a built-in one, I don't know, actually. I don't know. Good question. But no, I would expect yours to be renamed because yours technically gets loaded after the essential ones. Another question, if you have a compositor setup in the compositing editor and the same setup applied in the sequencer, will the effects be applied twice? Yes. Yes, because you can have multiple modifiers, compositor modifiers, and they will stack on top of each other. Next. Nana Bad says, I think the icons, Pablo, I think the icons for node assets should make it clear it is a node based somehow. A dot, a wire across the bottom, 2 icons on one thing would be odd outside of the outliner, perhaps against Blender style guide. Do you need to know? At some point, most of them should be node based, right? So we need to tell them apart because at some point, I don't know, maybe we need a way to tell the other ones apart. Also, you touch on adding a classic calculation option for a feature. I personally believe whatever a calculation is not pure math, but looks more accurate or should be visually more coherent, you should have an option for algorithm choice. Like in possible normals, there is no correct algorithm, but there are 4 common ones that look different. I feel somewhat unfair to just update these settings. Imagine if we were just updating linear filtering to cubic or just change the available. To keep the old calculation. Yeah, I'm all in for making those, like leaving the old one as legacy, maybe it's for people to use, at least until a few versions, until people switch over to the other one, or for artistic reasons. All right, the last one by Mile Porte. Hi Pablo, just 2 questions, split in 2 posts. 1, Blender is an authoring tool. So modeling should be the core module, but today seems outdated compared to other. Modeling should be the core module. Well, depends on who you ask, right? If you are a grease pencil artist, modeling maybe not your core thing, but yeah, I know what you mean. And I said it before, like the modeling is at the heart of everything. So yeah, sometimes Blender may appear inconsistent. Extrude manifold has many bugs and seems abandoned, but still present in the interface. The custom profiles in the bevel panel can't be saved or loaded, so the feature is less usable and appears abandoned. The question is, will modeling, box modeling, shortly gain the center of attention? Well, as I mentioned before, during this live stream, there is a new developer that is getting a development grant thanks to the Blender Development Fund subscribers that allows to hire this developer to work on modeling. Like, it will be the modeling module, like this developer's task, just that. And the goal is to fix issues first and then introduce new features. Like small quality of life improvements are also fine, but mainly fixing issues. I think the extrude manifold, it's one big candidate because yeah, it needs to be fixed. It's fun, but it has some bugs. And I even saw another video. Well, I didn't look for that video, but it showed up on my feed on YouTube of someone demoing that feature on that other software that starts with an M. The logo is an M and Aya. And they were demoing this feature and it works amazing. And then in the comments was like, oh, Blender has this for like many years, haha. And I'm like, please don't say that. Blender's is really buggy. Like what was this shown in that video was way more advanced than what Blender could do. So maybe first, as a Blender user, let's not go into other software videos and comment. Please don't do it. It's just cringy. Just let's stay in our bubble, say how great or not Blender is, but in our own videos, it's just much better. Works better in the long run. Anyway, so yes, like extrude manifold to me is the first thing that should be tackled. there are around many smart modeling plugins, but they all have different workflows and UI, not always coherent with the main application. Yeah. And worse, they're paid, or they are not even, or they are paid and they abuse other parts of Blender. Or anyway, I don't use any. I think the most popular one is Loop Tools, which is an add-on inside Blender. It has millions of downloads in the extensions platform. Maybe some of those should be moved into Blender as well, like some of those features, so people don't rely on the Loop Tools add-on, which is some of the features are already in Blender, just a different implementation, so maybe it could be built in. So Blender is no more free if they are needed to solve basic modeling problems. Yeah, but yeah, same thing basically. We should have more help in the development. But that's also weird, right? Why does the community make so many modeling add-ons, and there is not one of those developers that thinks like, hey, like many of them are free, and they're free open source. Well, every add-on is open source that uses the Blender API is open source. But those that are free and that are made by developers who want to contribute to Blender, and they make an add-on, like why wouldn't Blender make it approachable enough for more contributors to actually add features in core Blender? So that's maybe something to solve on our side. Anyway, the same problem with nodes. I don't see high-level nodes like revolve, bevel, bend, loft. Well, bevel is not really high level. It's a it's a high level as a user, but it's really complex. There's 2 videos in the Blender conferences from many years ago that talk about bringing this node, and still hasn't happened. It's not easy apparently. And the node was developed by the same person working on the modifier. So imagine if that person that brings out the modifier and the tool is not capable of the node. Low-level nodes formats are fundamental, but they are not artist-friendly. User is enforced to create advanced tools, so they become paid node tree. Paid node tree. You don't have to pay it. It's all open source. Well, no, actually, that's an asset. Assets are outside of the copyright. That they have their own license. I think Blender needs some smart, unique tools like geometry nodes, for example, to clean up the mesh after booleans, to use vertex groups in subdivision modifiers, etc. I agree, but you know, all the developers, maybe all the people that are making those add-ons and that are making those assets want to contribute to Blender, but maybe they want to pay the bills, maybe they want to eat, maybe they want to pay their rent or mortgage. So the only way we can help them is by hiring those people, and the only way is through donations. So that's all I have to say for now. Let's meet again next time. I already can't speak much more than this. I hope you had a good time today. I hope you found some features that you like, that you enjoy, that you were waiting for, and I hope you are also looking forward to Blender 5, because it's happening next week. About this time, you will see, right? Is it the 8th? Yeah. It will happen, yes. Next week, actually, some of the Blender people, actually, I don't know if you are around Madrid, next week is PenPod Fest, which is a design conference. It's about design, product design and so on. But there are some Blender users that will be around there, because PenPod, if you don't know, is an open source design software. Think of like Figma, but better because it's open source, like Blender. And that's a lie, actually. This conference happened 2 years ago, and we loved it with the lie. We said we need to go back, because you get in touch with so many other designers in other open source projects. Their conference is not just PenPod, it's design, especially looking at open source. So it's great, and I'm looking forward to be there. It's gonna be next week on the 8th to the 10th of October in Madrid, Spain. So if you're around, I'll see you there, and if not, I will see you in the next episode, which is, wait, when is it? October, oh my gosh, October 14th. That's the next Blender Today. Wow. All right, I will see you then next time, same place, same time, for another episode of Blender Today Live. Watch your ear holes. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye. Gracias. Grazie. Dankjewel. Arigato. Tak. Merci.